G'day folks, welcome back to Pete's Investing. Today's special edition, I'm just going to do a brief analysis of Adobe Systems, technical analysis. But before I get stuck into that, I wanted to go through some very basic fundamentals. And as you know, if you follow my channel, I don't normally go through fundamentals. So grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and sit back and take some notes, pen and paper. So basically just very quick fundamentals. Adobe's been doing quite well with AI-powered innovation recently. You've got a strong partnership expansion with Havas. Again, a lot of this is found on Yahoo Finance or any other sort of financial website you may go to. There was currently there's a bit of an analyst downgrade with Adobe's stock down to a neutral positioning, and I'll go through my technical analysis to explain why I think that may be a good idea. So again, there's also, lastly, there's the co-founder of Dr. John Warnock has passed away, and that could cause some investors to potentially show negative sentiments towards the company. So basically, overall, with recent news, Adobe Systems is mixed with positive developments in the AI innovation and strong financial performance. Again, I'm not going to go through too much fundamental analysis to be considered. So just bear that in mind. So I'll get stuck straight into the charts. And what I've got here, just so you can see, I've got the weekly and daily and hourly. Now we're going to focus primarily on the weekly and daily for trading stocks. If you follow my daily channels, you know I do cover natural gas, gold, silver and other commodities especially. And I do primarily focus on the daily and the hourly as well as the weekly, but primarily the daily and the hourly. In this case, I'm going to cover all three timelines. So again, this is the Adobe share price. This is the weekly. What I've got down here is my regular CCI 150, which I use primarily as a divergence indicator. Now I'm not showing the CCI 400 in this case. Instead, I'm going to use the ADX 25. So you can see there when the ADX 25 positive crosses above the negative, as in that point there, that corresponds with a breakout above the CCI 150 as well. That's on the weekly. So generally with shares, I personally buy on the daily. When the daily breaks out on the ADX, you can see there it breaks above on the CCI 150. But before I buy on the daily, I want to make sure the weekly is in a positive move like it is back here. So if I zoom in, you can see there back at that point, the positive ADX broke above the negative, and likewise on the CCI 150, you can see there it broke above the moving averages as well. Now you'll notice there on the middle chart, at this point, we're still showing a negative ADX above the positive ADX, and also the CCI 150 is below the moving averages. So what I do is I wait for the ADX positive to turn positive there. Likewise for the CCI 150 also to turn positive, probably at that point there. So in other words, I'd buy my shares on that candle there. Let me just zoom in a bit. At that candle there, you can see there where it corresponds, where the CCI 150 is broken above the moving average, as well the ADX positive is broken above the ADX negative. Now you'll notice there, well, I just keep the cursor there on the weekly, on the left chart, that's happened, it's gone above on a couple of weeks. So basically I want to make sure the weekly is in a positive move, like it is there, before I enter on the daily. I'll just pause. I won't talk about the hourly for the moment. I'll talk about that in a minute. So let's just focus on the daily for now. So again, I buy when it breaks above on the daily. So let me just zoom out on that one again. So ideally, you don't want to go halfway. You don't want, if you haven't bought it by this stage, at that when it breaks above the positive, it breaks above the negative. If you haven't bought it by then, don't jump on board. In other words, you don't want to be going into the trade now because this might start to trend down. So ideally, you want to wait for it to break above at that point there. Now to show how this works, you can see back here, at that point there, you can see there on the left, the weekly is in a positive. Okay, so this is in a positive move there, so that's fine. On the daily, it breaks above on the negative on the ADX there. Now the CCI 150 is still below, but that's still not too bad. But again, I'll talk about the CCI in a minute regarding that divergence. So that would have been a nice spot to go. Now what I do aim to do, I don't ride the full wave. what I aim for is a 3% target before I get out of the trade. So if I was to go long when it breaks above there on that candle, let's say I bought it on the end of the day there, I aim for at least a minimum 3% target. Now you can go for 4, 5, 6%. Don't get too greedy. 3 to 4% is probably good. So you can see there, if I closed it out at a 3% target, around, you would have got out with a 3% target. So that would be my approach to getting in and out of the trade often. I like to get in and out of the trade rather than holding it for longer term. Of course, depends on your strategy. You can buy it when it breaks above on the weekly there and hold on. Now, don't forget, some of these can still, you can see there on the weekly, the CSI 150 is in a downturn. That still would have been a potential entry there if I zoom in. So you can see there when it broke above on the ADX, that was 27th of February. So let's go to 27th of February. If you look at on the right-hand chart, on that point there, you potentially could have gone long, but just be mindful, the CSI 150 is still in a downtrend, although it has, the CSI 150 is making some advancement there. Now again, had we gone long there, at that point, you would have potentially bought some shares there. Now in this case it dropped off. You can see there it dropped off. Now, but it also recovered. So you just got to be careful sometimes. It can drop off. There's no guarantee, of course, with any of these. There's never a guarantee. If anyone guarantees you success in trading, I would probably take a grain of salt and walk away, because there's no such thing. Now you can see there at this point, when it breaks above, the positive breaks above the negative, we're in a positive with the CSI 150 as well. You can take that trade, but notice on the weekly, we're still in a negative. We're still in a downtrend back here. So to add extra, improve your probability of success, you want to make sure that the weekly as well is also in an upturn. So I personally would not be taking that trade because the weekly is in a negative. So let's go back to where it was last positive at that point there. You can see there it's near the peak on the weekly. Let's look at that. That's in October 21. So let's zoom into October 21. And let's see what it looks like during that peak. So you can see there when it broke above on the daily, the ADX breaks above on the daily, the weekly is also in a positive. So that gives us plenty of room to move, and you would have gotten out with a 3 to 4% gain on your trade there. Again, just be careful of trying to get out. Again, your risk strategy must be considered. You can ride this out, but just be careful, that can drop quite suddenly, and try not to get into the trade once this has already happened. In other words, if you don't get in soon after the breakout there, then I wouldn't be getting into it during that period, because you might have missed the boat. Let's go back a bit more. You can see there, that's still a positive. Now you would have fallen off there. So again, there's never a guarantee. And what you do is you either get out with a small stop loss. I like to average down, and I'll wait for the next opportunity and average down at that point there. So your new average would have been, if you bought one there, then bought one there, your new average price would have been there, and that would have been your break-even point around there. So that's basically buying and selling on the using the trend of the weekly, and buying, selling based on the daily. Now, what you've got to also consider, if I show you how to use the CSI 150, you can see there, based on the weekly alone, we had a bearish divergence. And if you follow my daily videos, you know I'm quite heavy into divergence. You can see there's a bearish divergence on the CSI 150 versus the price. So if you're looking at potentially, let's say you wanted to go long during that period, you would consider the divergence here versus higher highs on the price, lower highs on the CCI, and you may want to be very cautious about going long. Now, in this example, you would have done quite okay with a 3% gain, but again, just be careful. Eventually, the price did fall off with that divergence, as you can see there, with the CCI 150 declining. That's on the weekly divergence. That also applies with where we are at the moment. So again, I'm just looking at the daily. Even though today, let me just go back a minute, even though we're in a positive on the daily and a positive on the weekly, again, avoid jumping on the moving train because you may have missed the bus as well. Look at the CCI where we are at the moment. The CCI highs are declining, versus the higher highs of the price. Now, a couple of things have happened here. We've had a divergence within a divergence, so you can see there within that range. We had a double top there versus a divergence, a bearish divergence on the CCI, and the price did fall off. So some of these are just divergence. Doesn't necessarily mean a crash. It just could mean a retrace to the downside. Again, if you follow my daily videos, you'll know that I talk about slight retraces at the minimum. So again, we've got a pretty long divergence happening here on the daily. Lastly, I want to talk about the hourly time frame. So again, these are all independent. The divergences are independent from the different time frames. So the hourly divergence is different from the daily divergence. They're not necessarily aligned. But again, looking at it back here, we did have a double top of highs there during that period versus those lower highs on the CCI 150, and eventually the price fell off, had a bit of a retrace, then it recovered and went up higher. And then you can see there, that's I'll just maybe delete that line just to make it a bit clearer. We had a separate divergence played out there, and we could probably consider that a move to that point there. That is still a bearish divergence versus that new high there. So again, we're waiting for a potential retrace to the downside for this hourly chart. And again, if you're trading, I don't normally trade the hourly chart on the shares. I do only on the commodities like natural gas, gold, silver, etc. I don't normally trade the hourly because it can move quite suddenly, but you can trade it if you are a day trader with shares as well. You've got to consider as well any slippage, but also any brokerage you might be paying depending on your allotment size. But again, you can trade them. You can see there using the CCI 150, you can trade those little upswings if you're going long. There's another point there of trading long and just getting out of the trade, for example, when it breaks below the moving averages on those there. If I just zoom in a bit, you can see there you can trade these if you do day trade, enter long there, and you would have held it for a few days and exit the trade there. Go long there and exit the trade when it breaks below there, etc. So that's a quick analysis on Adobe. I wouldn't be buying this one at the moment, so I'm not recommending to you to buy it. I'm just simply showing you the methodology and how we trade shares, which is very similar to the commodity trades we do as well. What we also do on the Patreon page, if you want to subscribe to that page, we also do weekly scans of stocks which have fresh breakouts. So we do potentially show you where you can buy stocks where it does a fresh breakout on the CCI as well as the ADX as well. So if you want to subscribe to that on the channel, go to the Patreon page, links in the description below. Again, thanks for watching. If you like the topic, and subscribe, hit that notification bell and the like button, and we'll see you in a future video. Thanks for watching.